I feel that Scorpio is such a universally demonized sign that whenever I tell one of my civilized and charming Libra friends that at some point they will have 30 years during which they will have to do scorpionic things, they get very nervous. But this is unavoidable, and there are ways to make the most out of it. With this, I welcome you to the video about the stages of development that Libra people go through as they age, as they mature. I am Nadia, the astrologer, people who love and enjoy astrology without believing in it. If this concept of astrology for people who don't believe in it is new to you and is maybe confusing, I invite you to take a look at the video that I will place a link to here and also in the comments where I elaborate on it a little bit. But this is the video about Libras, so let's get to it. The Libra birthdays fall on the dates between the 23rd of September and 23rd of October, but some people who were born on the 22nd of September and on the 24th of October could also have their sun in Libra. If that's you, double check. Get yourself a natal chart. Just make sure that your sun was in the sign that you know and not in Libra. The stages of development that I'm talking about, they have to do with the movements of the progressed sun. And what is the progressed sun? So your sign is the sign in which the sun was the moment of your birth. And this is your natal sun. It will remain in the same sign forever. But there's also the progressed sun, which when you're born, it's at exactly the same spot as the natal sun. And then it starts slowly moving through the zodiacs. And so first it moves through the remaining part of the sign it was in when you were born. For a Libra, this is Libra. And this stage is like an astrological kindergarten. You learn to be yourself. You learn to do what your sun is known for, what your sign is known for. It's usually a little bit easier for people than the next stages. Then the progressed sun moves into the next sign. For Scorpio, or for Libra, this is Scorpio. Then this second school stage begins. Last 30 years is usually a little bit more difficult because there's more adjustment and because there is conflict between the neighboring signs. And then the progressed sun moves into the next sign, which for Libra is Sagittarius, and begins another 30-year-long, now university stage of development, which is usually a little bit easier. There's still a lot of learning, but there's more affinity between the values of the original sign and this third stage development sign. But yeah, let's talk about those stages one by one. Now, the first stage, the kindergarten stage, when the progressed sun is moving through Libra, can last a different amount of years depending on when you were born. So depending on your birthday, this is how long it's going to last for you if you're a Libra. Now, what the stage is about. So any sign at this kindergarten stage is a little bit like an undercooked version of their more complete and well integrated self, and can even seem like a caricature of the sign. This also applies to Libra. So Libra at this stage may seem like they are superficial or overly pleasant or cold. Coldness is also this quality shared by some air signs, or that they are too much influenced by other people. This could also be the impression they're creating, or they also may be perceived as people who are little manipulative tricksters. So more like a negative thing. Libras tend to recognize the power of their charm easier than some other people, some other signs, and this can make them power hungry. Sometimes on a conscious level, very often on an unconscious and clearly innocent level. So they may learn at this stage that if they behave nicely towards others, and also if they add some like innocent eyes or flirty eyes as well, right? There is the power of eyes that Libras like to use. And if they also dress nicely, you know, in a way that is seen as attractive in the family, in the community, they can get privileges. And so at this stage, they learn to, yes, behave nicely, be polite, endear people. They also have this inherent love for refinement, which adults also find endearing. It also helps. So all of those skills, they're not unuseful, and the Libra will make use of them later. So absolutely like recommended curriculum for any Libra. However, if their mischiefs are being overlooked because they, you know, behave nicely, dress nicely, and have beautiful eyes, this is kind of like enabling or spoiling or corrupting. So this may also maybe make Libra seem like not so nice people. However, usually they are kind and they are gentle, genuinely. But before the next Scorpio phase begins, it is hard for them to really feel other people. So instead of feeling other people, they tend to they try to read them, because Libra is an air sign, and air signs are more intellectual. And with this attitude, developing a true intimacy, true closeness is problematic. That being said, what is absolutely possible and achievable for Libras on this stage is the sense of companionship, which is also already an amazing thing, and already a lot. So Libras learn at this stage how to influence other people, but they are also very much influenced by other people at this stage. They tend to spend a lot of time thinking about how other people perceive them, and they think about it longer and harder than other signs, sometimes to the point where they are very confused about, you know, what do I want? What do I value? Because so much attention is on the other people. And yeah, also sometimes they are so charmed by people they try to build a relationship with that if the relationship is not going well, they believe and they feel that painful relationship will improve if only they knew how to act correctly. And this correctly in young Libra's mind, it can mean, for example, that they have to endure and sacrifice and make an effort to improve the relationship, or it can mean that they have to learn some secret manipulative technique to make the other person do what the Libra wants them to do. And indeed, Libra young people start experimenting and trying out some of those techniques a little bit more often and more consciously than many other signs. So at this first stage, Libras are often protecting themselves from things that they find unpleasant and unwanted in their lives by being pleasant and looking good and having those eyes. I cannot do those eyes, but they can. But sometimes it does not work, and then other people do not do what the Libra wants them to do. And then they have to show their tough side, which they absolutely have. And then the other person can see that, for example, it's extremely difficult, almost impossible, to make a Libra person do what they did not want to do. Or also very not practical to rush a Libra into a decision, because a Libra wants to be confident in the correctness of their decision, and being rushed absolutely does not help that. So best case scenario, the Libra may do what other people want of a Libra and then say, I actually didn't want to do it. I actually don't believe this is the right thing. And, not very satisfying, that is. And this first stage is the time when the Libras start learning how to enjoy the refined pleasures of civilization. So, like, for example, how to take care of their appearance, how to understand culture, how to engage in a conversation, how to enjoy comfort, how to impress other people can also be very enjoyable. And then at some point, this first stage of training is over. The progressed sun moves into the next sign, which is Scorpio. And the second school stage of development begins, lasts always 30 years. And depending on your birthday, this is which 30 years of your life it will occupy. Now, Libra is ruled by Venus, the seductive ambassador of peace and reciprocity, but Scorpio is ruled by the brutal and passionate warrior, Mars. And so the scorpionic phase in the life of a Libra is the phase when they have intense impulses and strong desires, and it can be a good thing. What's good about it is that it becomes easier for them to identify and acknowledge their own desires. It helps with decision making, also very important for Libras. So they switch from, always trying to find some balance in relationships to trying to maybe find balance within themselves to make peace with their intense desires and emotions. And this is a time of intense emotions, and this is also has a negative side, of course. It makes the task of finding this inner balance more challenging, because there's now more need for it, and it has to be like the techniques that the Libra uses to achieve inner balance have to be more powerful. Libra is the sign of relationships like friendship or romantic relationships or cooperation, right? And Scorpio is the sign of intimacy, of such a close connection that in this intimate relationship, neither of the partners has the opportunity to keep their social mask or their social face on for too long. Such is the degree of closeness. And this development is logical. Why? Because Libra was always interested in relationships, and the relationships that they had have been evolving, and people in those relationships were learning more and more about themselves, about their partners. Their conversations started getting more deep, more honest. And so instead of a more superficial level of interaction, there is now in those relationships space for deeper work on, for example, psychologically uncomfortable material or conflicts or difficult, complicated emotions. And when the two people who are intimately connected do this work together, they become even closer. So for long-term relationships, this is actually better and more effective than the more traditional Libran ways of dealing with differences, which those Libran things would be compromise or apologizing and forgiving or creating a pleasant atmosphere. This also has its place, but to create more closeness, more scorpionic ways of interaction are more effective. Now, Scorpio is also known for its desire to control the partner in a relationship, and the Libra may also fall into this trap, especially if they prioritize relationships and if they make family one of their most important projects. So if this happens, then they start demanding a lot of themselves and also of their partner and of their children. And this creates a lot of tension. And this tension is one of the reasons why at this scorpionic stage, the Libra may dive into mindfulness practices or like yoga or meditation, like anything that helps them keep some form of balance. And they dive into those practices with like such a scorpionic intensity. Why? Because they really need it at this stage. This is also the stage where a lot of Libra people get out of relationships that were, yeah, okay, but that did not feel like they have a lot of truth in them. So, for example, I will have the example from the non-romantic realm. So, they may have a teenage crisis and rebel against their parents, even if the stage begins when they're already, I don't know, 29, so like supposed to be grown-ups. And why this is happening is because before the scorpionic phase, it may have seemed to them that as long as the important people in their lives, which included parents, can rate them with an A+, they're okay. So, you know, they're like trying to impress dad or prove their loyalty to their mom. Well, not anymore, right? This can also happen in, you know, other relationships, not just with parents. Also important thing about Scorpio is that it is the sign of extremes, and at this stage the Libra may change their appearance in a dramatic fashion, and you know, in a few years they will barely remind people of who they were 5 years ago, or they may start experimenting with things that previously they even tried to protect themselves from, and also go to extremes in that direction. But sooner or later, this phase comes to an end. The progressed sun moves into the next sign of Sagittarius. With this begins the university 30 years long stage of development. Depending on your date of birth, this is which 30 years of your life it will occupy if you're a Libra. So, this scorpionic phase in their lives could have been a phase of introspection, of intense emotions, of learning how to, be in this like very intimate and close connection with the other person. But Sagittarius is the sign of freedom and openness and spaciousness and perspective. And for most of the Libras, when this stage begins, they feel a sense of relief, and they like this sense of spaciousness and freedom, even if to get to it they had to actually lose something that they even appreciated in the previous stage. So even if it's connected to some like sense of loss, it's usually positive in the life of a Libra. Now, the training that they had to go through during their scorpionic phase did not go to waste. This scorpionic phase gave Libra so much experience, and they learned a lot about the different aspects of life, and even the aspects of life that their more naive self did not know existed. And now this hard-earned knowledge can be turned into wisdom, because Sagittarius is the sign of wisdom, and it's the sign of generalizations and sense-making and conclusions. And so at this stage, the Libra person can turn their life experience, pleasant and unpleasant, into some form of wisdom and share it with others and teach, or help, just like, behave as a more wise, knowledgeable person. Sagittarius is also the sign of optimism, and indeed, optimism may fill the souls of a Libra person at this stage, and this optimism may motivate themselves to return to the activities that they find pleasurable and meaningful. And when they engage in those activities, they spread their Libran magic around them. So like they spread beauty around them, or they create a pleasant atmosphere, or they embody civilized attitudes. And this makes their own lives better, but this also makes the lives of those around them also better, good for everyone. It also becomes easier to balance their own interests and the interests of their partner, and this allows a lot of the Libras at this stage to embark on adventures together with their partners or alone. So scorpionic phase can have a lot of struggle for power and for influence in important relationships for a Libra. And it can be like this tug of war for the proverbial blanket. And as soon as the Sagittarian phase starts, Sagittarius is not interested in holding on to those stupid things. So the blanket, slips away from the hands of a Libra person, and the energy that they were using to hold on to this blanket is now theirs, and they can do whatever they want with it. And in many cases, they channel it to traveling, or teaching, or learning, or cultural exploration, or spiritual exploration, or like just learning about the world and what the humanity has done so far, and what is interesting in there, what makes sense, what has meaning for them. And of course, there is a negative to almost everything, also to a Sagittarius phase in the life of the Libra. And one of them is that Sagittarius is not known for having a good relationship with moderation or balance. And at this stage, also the Libra may lose their ability to, be moderate and balanced in many situations. So it may show itself through Libra suddenly not being able to notice when people don't listen to him or her anymore, and just keep talking. Or they may become too focused on the appearance and like use too much makeup, or get into like plastic surgery and overdo it. Or they may get fixated on romantic adventures and relationships. Or Sagittarius is also the sign of truth telling, and at this stage the Libra, who was previously very delicate and polite, may just start, just telling the truth. Also in situations where actually a little bit more of tact would have been appropriate and desirable. So yes, these are the first 3 stages of development for any Libra person. If you think that those stages of development stories are fun, and if you would like other people to recognize themselves in those descriptions, engage with the video. Like it, leave a comment, recommend it to other people, share it. This helps other people who have no idea who I am also discover the video, and this is what I want, because I think it's a fun idea. I like describing it to people, and I like people recognizing themselves in those descriptions. So thank you for listening and for watching. And the next video will be about one of the earth signs, and see you then.